Run, party, repeat. Welcome to the East Coast Adventures Dirt and Vert podcast, where we talk all things running, racing, and training to help you get ready for your next big adventure.
Learn from our successes and our failures, and have fun at the same time. Join us right here every week with inspiring guests who share their captivating tales from the trails. And remember, nobody cares.
Run faster. All right. Welcome back to the Dirt and Vert podcast. I'm David.
And I'm Matt.
And we have a special guest with us this week that just finished Southern States 200. And when I say finished, not only finished, but absolutely crushed it. She finished third overall and was first female. Just an amazing time. And we get to hear this story here in a little while. But first and foremost, Ashlie Ithurburn, if you don't care, tell us a little bit about who you are and how you got into running.
Yeah, thanks guys so much for having me. My name's Ashlie. Let me think about this. So started running pretty traditionally, getting into ultras. I mean, the basic, I did the half marathon, transitioned to marathon. I didn't really run a lot before that. So it was, high school, all that running was a requirement and I hated it. But otherwise, it really didn't have like a huge endurance background, really wasn't very athletic. I did sports just to be social probably, but somewhere around, I was probably 21. So good bit ago, started doing like, the half marathon distance, and really enjoyed it. We were living, so I'm from California, originally Northern California, like Sacramento area. A small town called Yuba City for anybody that would actually know where that is. But my husband and I moved to North Carolina. He was doing grad school out there at Duke. So we were in Durham, which was awesome. But somewhere around there, I started running just to kind of stay fit and get into shape. And I enjoyed it. I had friends who kind of taught me a little bit about what to do. And, did 5K, 10K, half marathon. We moved up to Ohio where my husband did his PhD at Ohio State. And that's where I signed up for my first marathon. And, just like any other, I guess, drug, I was like hooked. It was amazing. And I did that for a couple years. Just enjoyed all the road marathons locally and wherever I could pick up a race. My brother, whose name's Matt as well, he lived in upstate New York, and he kept telling me like, you really need to get into trail. I think you're going to enjoy it. I kind of kept getting injured on the road and I wouldn't listen. He's my big brother. So what does he know? And then I had my son. So in 2016, I had my son and we moved to Birmingham shortly after that. So in the process of recovering from having a kid and just trying to, change things up a little bit. My brother actually signed us up both for a race out here about 10 miles away from our house at a preserve, natural preserve called Ruffner Mountain. So all the local people know where it's at. And he said he was going to come and run it with me. And it was like, 8 miles and 19 miles. So he was going to do, I think the 19, I would do the 8. So I showed up in road shoes. I had no idea what I was doing. And I was so intimidated. And if you know Ruffner Mountain out here, it's pretty technical, pretty verty for a trail. I looked like a complete idiot. But I made a lot of friends and it was really fun. So from then on, I was like, this is great. Let's do more of this. I didn't mention also that he canceled. He did not come. So
Well played.
I think,
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't know that he ever intended on coming, but he did get me into the sport, which was awesome. So that was September 2020 or 2016. And then I want to say maybe it was the next year, he actually signed up for Pinhoti 100. So he said, hey, come out and pace. Like, I'm going to come out there. You pace me. And I did the last 40 miles with him. And that was the longest distance, the most I've run on trails. And I was just like euphoric. I mean, dead, absolutely dead. I think I sprained my ankle on the first like 5 miles. But I mean, I was just like, we got to get this guy to the finish. And we did. He finished. He did amazing. And so from then on, it was like, this is incredible. Birmingham has a great trail community. So it was pretty easy to pick up trail races right away. So from then on, I knew I had my eyes on Pinhoti 100. So it's a matter of time to see what happened from there. And yeah, that ended up being my first 100-miler. But I did a few build up before that. So yeah, pretty typical build in, but except for the brother kind of pushing me to that start line. And so it's pretty cool.
That's kind of good that he pushed you into the trails, because you may not have gotten started as early as you did.
He tricked her into the
Pushed, bullied me. I'm not really sure, but it paid off.
When you say sprained your ankle at mile 1 through 5 of Pinhoti, believe me, that almost made me cringe, because I did that in November.
Did you? Oh,
I sprained it at mile 1 and ran another 56 miles on it, and it just got too big, and I just had to stop. So this was actually my first race this weekend since that, because it was ugly.
Okay.
So I know exactly what he means when he says, or you said you rolled your ankle, not him, right?
Yeah.
How bad you messed up?
I don't even remember. I remember being like, that was a mistake, but like my investment was like, it's him. Like he was bolting. I'd never run at night. I was complete newbie. So it was like, I just got to keep going. It's my brother's 8 years older than me. And so I'm like, I've got to be strong. I've got to be tough. And then we finished and I was like, my ankle is massive. Fortunately, my husband's a physical therapist. I mean, there wasn't much he could do. But he was like, you did something wrong. Yeah, it was, I could care less. It was just like, what just happened? That was pretty cool. And when can I do that again?
So did you start running before your brother, or did he start before you?
I'm not sure. I think it was kind of a mutual thing. We both were doing our own road things. But he definitely was in the trail community and in the trail scene before. He was attempting a couple 100-milers, and I think doing it a little bit more raw, like no crew or pacer or anything like that. So I think he welcomed the ability to come out here and have a little more support. And it ended up being, I think, a win. So
So you went from just do like typical, road races, marathons, and then you jump into a trail and you start ultras. Was there that very first like true ultra that you did? Did it go really well, or was it really hard?
Yeah. It's a good question. Well, so I signed up. So I had originally signed up Lake Martin 100, which was March of 2020. So I built up. I was so excited. I was ready. And COVID happened. And David Tosh, so Southeastern Trail Series, same race system, and I was so pumped for this race. And then COVID happened. They worked really hard to keep it going, but ultimately, Russell Preserve, I believe, which is on Russell Lands, just said like it wasn't going to happen. I was devastated. David said, we're going to switch remote, which is very fun. And a lot of the park systems were closed. There wasn't really a chance for me to go out and I didn't really want to do 100 solo, remote or like virtually. So he said you could drop down to any distance as well. So I did a 50-miler out at Ruffner, which was also really cool. And I'm really glad I ended up doing that. So I submitted that. So that was kind of my first real, like, okay, here's a distance that's a real big challenge. So I'd say that was my first. And then, then initially right after that finished, signed up for Pinhoti 100, because that was the next 100 I could swing. And it was everything that it, was going to be. Typical first 100. I thought I had everything figured out. I don't remember what my time was. It was, probably, I think it was like 29 or something. It was whatever it could be. Just like, let's just not fail. Like, failure for me was not finishing. Like, I'd put so much into it. So yeah, I don't honestly don't recall a lot about it, which is probably for the best, except for I had my brother-in-law Andy came out from California to pace me, which was really cool. Um, and I had, my husband and a couple other people out. So it was hard to say the least. But yeah, it was the thing where you finish though and instantly think, what next? Um, Pinhody's hard to beat. So obviously I keep coming back.
So you didn't experience the "I'm never running again" during your
Halfway
first
through.
100
Yeah.
miler?
I'm sure at some point between, mile 70 and 95, I said I'm never running again. But yeah, it was an overall really good experience. Yeah, but I'm sure that there was plenty of those moments, plenty of those dark and scary moments. But overall, I definitely finished thinking like, I don't know what's next, and when can I do that again? When can I get the allowance? I think in my I guess family equity with a kid at home and a husband who's got his own thing going on, but it was good.
Well, as you get further and further in the sport, it doesn't take you as long to finish those
Yeah.
100 milers. So, you're slowly
Hopefully,
you're also getting faster. So,
hopefully.
it was funny. Me and my fiance were just having this conversation today because we were talking about our very first 100s. And she's like, my very first 100 took me 26 hours. I said, yeah, mine took me 30. She's like, mine was on the road. I think everybody has, shouldn't say everybody. Some people run so many 50s and 100Ks and stuff.
Yeah,
They really take it seriously. Where I was like you. I was like, I think it's time. Let's do it.
yeah.
It'll be whatever it's going to
Like a
be.
Band-Aid.
My first
What could
100.
go wrong?
My first 100 was my PR so far. So
That's amazing.
I'm backwards.
Oh, yeah. And the funny thing is, too, I feel like I'm the queen of like the Irish goodbye because it's like I've got so much childcare. Like, I put so much, I guess, investment into like making sure all the details are sorted. Finn's taking care of my son, that it's like I get to the finish and I want to stay and hang out and party and like, hang out as long as I can. But it's like, all right, and I got my parents got to fly out or whoever's with my kid. I've got to switch gears into mom mode. So yeah, I try to keep as light touch as possible, but on that time frame that it takes. But unfortunately, the 200s do suck a little bit more out of you. So
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I can't wait to hear
Worth
this
it.
story here shortly. You also ran a race that I know very dear to my heart,
Okay.
and you did it right before COVID. So I don't know if it was you got to do the full thing, but the Blood Rock 100, you did the 50 miler.
Yeah. I did. So I'm glad you bring that up. I haven't looked at my ultrasound in a minute, but that was my first 50.
That was a hard first fit. Well, I don't know. Maybe it wasn't. He's changed the course a couple of times,
Yeah.
but I think regardless, that course is always hard.
It
I
is.
signed up for the 100 and had no idea what I'd signed up for till I got there and did the first lap. So it was. I treat my races like I do this podcast. I don't do a lot of research at all. We just go with it.
I love it. I think that's the best approach, though. I really do. Like, it's not going to help. I mean, well, maybe it will. I don't know. Wait, so what year did you do Blood Rock?
2022
Yeah.
or 2023, one of the two. It might have been 2020.
I think it was 2022.
Yeah.
It's 23 we did.
Okay.
Yes, 2022. I did that was the last of my round of hundreds because I did like 4 100s in like 3 months. It was a bad idea. And Blood Rock was my last one, and
That'll be like the grand finale.
I knew when someone on Facebook said that climb's going to be interesting 3 times in a row, and I'm like, what climb?
Yeah.
He's like, I hope you got gloves. I'm like, what are you talking about? Well, I learned real quick.
Gosh.
So
Oh, it's a great race. Yeah, I did that for my first 50 and then I did it I think 2023. Yeah, not last. Yeah, 2023. So that's also one. So again, speaking mom mode, but it's usually my son's birthday weekend. So it depends on when it lands as to whether or not I can do it. But 2023, it was like far enough away from his birthday that I felt like I could justify it. And I think, oh my gosh, that was the year that they were going to do the last 100. They ended up doing it again, of course.
Yeah,
But man,
they
it's a great race.
always get you with that. They
I know.
always get
I
you.
was like, well, I've got to do it. I've got to do it. Uh, and it was great. And I got to do that one with my like best trail sister, Christy. And that was really, really cool to be able to kind of do some of that with her and run that was really neat. And also it's in our backyard. It's 20 minutes away. Sorry, that sounds
Wow.
bright.
Well, and you also won it, so congratulations.
You should left
Thank
that
you.
part out.
I did.
See, I told you eventually get faster, but you're not getting faster because you're picking harder courses.
I know. I don't know what's wrong with me.
But I will say that's a really cool race, and that's probably the best thing you could have done to train for the Pinhoti. I mean, not for Pinhoti, but for Southern States 200. Like that's an intense race.
Yeah. Sorry, the sun, it'll go away soon. But yeah. Oh, there we go. Here we go. I'll just move my body. Yeah, that was actually the plan. Now, again, you're jogging my memory, but that was the plan. So before David announced Southern States, I don't know where I was. I was volunteering or running maybe like Memorial Day or something like that, trail race. And he said, hey, he knew I had just done Tahoe and said like, hey, don't say anything, but I've got something kind of in the works. So save the date for like April. This was like 2023. And so I was like, I'm in. Like, I don't care what we're doing. I know it's on the Pinhoti. He told me that. And that's just, again, it feels like home to me because of all the things we've done out there, but also it's where I really found my trail legs, I guess. And so when he said that, I was so enthusiastic. I think I might have been the first person to sign up. And so I thought, Blood Rock's a great one to kind of get ready, prepare for that one. And it turned out to be a great time. I had, December training block and then kind of recover a little bit and build back up into April because that's when that one was last year. So it ended up being a really good fit for sure.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, and I see that was not your first 200. So,
yeah,
you had already done. Was it Tahoe that I saw on here? Yeah, Tahoe 200.
Yeah, I did Tahoe in 2023. So that was the year. That was also something I get really invested in what I do. So my brother backstory did Bigfoot. In 2021 or 2021. So we crewed him. I think I want to say it was like 100 miles of it that I paced him for.
Wow.
And being from Northern California, it was like Tahoe's the obvious choice. Like, I'm going to go out there and we're going to do Tahoe together. He's going to pace me. And I was so excited. So I got in, I was ecstatic, started training. And that was the year the snow was pretty bad. So we knew that there was a chance that it was going to get rescheduled. And it ended up getting bumped to July, which would have been fine. But my brother was actually getting married the weekend before. So I, quickly realized that I think I had a moment telling my husband, like, I'll just do it completely solo. It'll be fine. But we ended up driving up and doing New York, going to the wedding. And then we flew out to California and I had enough family out there that was able to help crew me and pace me without my brother Matt there. So that was awesome. And yeah, it was a really challenging year. I think any year is challenging, but the change in dates was tough. It got hot. It was the out and back, which I think they still do. Out and back and then out and back again. But again, my goal that year was to finish. I feel like I had kind of pulled so many strings to get there, put so many things on the line that I just wanted to cross that finish line. So I did. And then I thought there's a lot of things I should probably do different next time. And then shortly after was when David mentioned Southern States. So I was like, all right, let's see what we can do out in the Southeast. So yeah, that's kind of how that all evolved. But Tahoe is great. It was a really cool race. It's really challenging though.
Well, I would ask you how your first multi-day race went, but Blood Rock is like running a multi-day race.
Yeah, it really was.
But but as far as like your very first 200, how was that experience for you as far as trying to figure out how to sleep and when to sleep?
Yeah. So I feel like it was a lot of very conservative effort. Like a lot of people saying, make sure you're resting, make sure you're sleeping. That year, I actually talked to Trevor, who also did Southern States this year. He was out there the same year, so it was fun to commiserate. Sarah Wallace, who I ran Southern States with last year, also ran Tahoe the same year. So, and she actually finished right in front of me in Tahoe. So, um, I made it my mission to make sure she did not do that again. But she knows that. I've told her that before. But yeah, so my perspective on that was sleep as much as I can without like losing too much time. Um, and that was great. I think I was very conservative and it was good. I think I did like 2 hour rests maybe night. So we started morning like, 7 or whatever. So it was almost through the first full night that I slept. And I think I slept every night a little bit. Probably between 90 minutes and 2 hours. And that went really well. I think the heat and the altitude played a big toll on me and a lot of people. I mean, there was a point we were like siphoning snow into like our filters because it was like so hot and just really, really remote. So I think I learned a lot. Like I had to carry a little bit more water than I probably had planned to. And yeah, I think I learned a lot from that race. I also had a lot of really cool runners around me that taught me a lot, so it was me being out there just wide eyed and like, what is this all about? And soaking up as much knowledge as I could. Which I think ultimately I could use later on in a lot of ways, but it's cool to know people later on that I was like, oh, you were there too. And wasn't that miserable? So
Yeah,
it was good.
suffering together also creates a whole different
Oh my gosh,
a whole
trauma
different
bonding. It
bond.
is
Yes.
the best.
Yeah, those people become like your best
They sure
friends for
do.
life. Even if you don't
They
even talk
do.
for a year, you can be like, "Oh," you know, and then you're
Yeah,
automatically back to where you're
Yeah.
at, and it's like, "Oh yeah, that's
it's
awesome."
so unique. I think it's probably one of the things I love most. It's like I get emotional sometimes after races thinking like, I feel like I bonded with that person. I'll probably never see them again. But it is really cool and really unique to ultras.
Let's see. I was looking at your um, overall results, and I guess you've done Pinhoti 100 several times, haven't you? Yeah, I love that. And it looks like you just keep progressing, so that's awesome. 25 hours on Pinhoti 100. That's a great time.
Thanks.
Good job.
Thanks, guys.
And then one of the things that I wanted to ask you, and we'll spend a little bit more time on this, but you've obviously done Southern States now twice. Obviously, that's comparing that to a West Coast race is completely different with the humidity, et cetera, over here. Just I'm sure the technicality of the trail on the Pinhoti versus the West Coast is different too. But how would you compare Tahoe 200 and Southern States 200? Which one do you think was harder for you? Was it Tahoe because it was your first one?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think altitude and heat played a factor. So when we started Tahoe, honestly, I was like, bring on the heat. Like, I mean, I live in Alabama. I'm training in the heat, obviously a lot of humidity. But I'm a California girl born and raised. So I felt like I know what I'm doing on this heat situation. I know what dry heat is. I know what humidity looks like. So I felt pretty good. I think that the humidity along with the elevation, like altitude, got me pretty hard the first day of Tahoe. But aside from that, I would give the edge to Southern States as far as I mean, it's those buttery smooth trails on Tahoe are pretty dreamy. So it's hard to hate that. The views are also really nice. I mean, Southern State's got amazing views as well. I think that the technicality and like just like constant like ups and downs that Southern States has to offer. I mean, and then you throw in that 22-mile road section. I think if I'm thinking like true challenge, I would give the edge to Southern States. I think that the exception would be that doing Tahoe in July when it was like the hottest it could be. Um, again, and the altitude, which is not something that I'm what at like 800 feet here, so
Yeah.
I don't really have that in me, but I do think training in the humidity helped a little bit. I felt pretty good. They also had pretty ambitious or pretty aggressive rather cutoffs. I think a lot of people kind of discuss that. So people were going in really hot and stressed into those aid stations at Tahoe. And I think that kind of created a little bit of a like pandemonium that I don't necessarily feel like we needed, but um again, I think we were just happy to be able to run it because it really should have been canceled for all, intents and purposes, but we were happy to be out there. So it is what it is. So yeah. And to answer like long short of that, I would say, I think, I think the course itself of Southern States has a lot more challenges than people really recognize, not to mention that big climb at the very end.
Yeah, and I
Gets
mean,
you.
Pinhoti in general is it's pretty gnarly trail.
It's
I mean,
sneaky.
yeah,
It's
it
really
is.
sneaky.
It is.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I love it. Obviously, I'm a huge fan, but it definitely is. It's not the buttery West Coast trails that we tend to enjoy.
There's not a lot of buttery around here. Period.
No.
No.
One of our teammates,
Not-
Nick, he just moved back out there. He moved to I think Nevada, and he said he's ready for those buttery trails to come back. Because when he was over
yeah,
here, he said it's nothing but roots, rocks, and everything. And then he's sending us pictures. He's like, buttery trails, I'm ready for them, and they just look so smooth. I'm like, yeah, we don't have that.
yeah, and I'm just like a very clumsy person, which is why I mean I joke that like I trip getting out of the shower. I don't know why I picked this as like my hobby, but it's yeah, it's really nice to like run on those trails and feel like you can be, pull free without biting the dust and trying not to lose your teeth. But that's why I'm always bloody. It's just how it is. But
Yeah, right there with you. If I'm gonna race on a trail, I'm either breaking an ankle or something.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, you were
over the course.
so with your since you finished Pinhoti 100 in 2024, we probably started together. We didn't run together at all, but I was too busy picking myself up off the ground.
I love
That's what
that.
happened.
That night, that dark start too. Though is that where you? That's not where you twisted your
Oh
ankle. That
yeah,
was a different one.
absolutely. That's
It
exactly.
was.
Yeah, we just went off the road into the trail, and that trail is kind of like just winding a little bit, and
Yeah.
there was just I did not really know when I was lining up where I was at because I
Hmm.
got there with like 2 minutes left, or there were maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. And I just run over to the line and I'm standing there and then they yell go. And then I wait to see which direction everybody took off running. And then I went, and I kind of like just got in the middle. And that's normally not where I'm ever at. I don't like to be behind people.
Yeah.
And I was
It's
trying
that
to,
Congo line.
yeah, I was trying to pass people. And that's what's so funny. Passed everybody that I needed to pass, no issues. And then I finally get into this group that's like running close to the pace I'm at. And I just
Hmm.
I was right behind a lady and she was like, you can go around me if you want. And I'm like, no, I'm good. This is good. I'll stay here till we come out of the trail. And as soon as I said that, hit the ground. And like my ankle just hit the ground.
Sorry,
Like I kept
David.
running, but
I'm
my
so
whole
sorry.
ankle just rolled and went and I felt it pop and tear.
Oh my.
And I was like, not gonna look at it, not gonna look at it, just keep running, just keep running. And and then someone said, you got really quiet. And I was like, I just rolled my ankle. She's like, don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. I'm like, it's a little late for that. But
Sorry, David.
but I'll have to
You're
go
in good
back.
company though. My good friend Emily did the same thing 2 years before that. Um, she ended up it was okay, but it was bad, like bad. So it's always that section.
Well, I'll be on the lookout because I've got to go back and run that. I've done Georgia Jewel twice, the 100, but
Okay.
that
Yeah.
was my first Pinhoti 100, and I was
Yep.
like, oh, yeah, no, never, ever, ever count a race as being, checked off until you actually finish it.
Like Rob says.
So, yeah, our buddy Rob Apple even said it this weekend.
Yep.
He's doing the 50K, and I asked him, I was like, "What number is this going to be, Rob?" He said, "If I finish, it'll be
Good. I like
818,"
it.
and he says it every time. Every
Yep.
time you can
All
count on
right.
it. And people have started catching on to that listen to this podcast because when we were at the race and I asked him, there was like 4 people around me started laughing because they're like, "We were waiting on it."
Yep.
I was like, "Yep, he says it every time."
Yep. It was when I passed him, I think
I
the
love
second
it.
lap, and I was running with this guy who had never heard of him, and I was telling him who he was, and I said, "Watch this." We go by, and I said, "Rob, what number is this?" He goes, "If I finish." I'm like, "There it is. It's every time."
Oh,
That needs to be
that's good though. It reminds you that it's a
We do.
gift too. It's
Yeah.
not a given.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
we're lucky to do what we do.
It's a blessing and it's a curse at the same time because if you get addicted to it, it's like you want to. That's the hardest part is
Yeah.
like when you get injured
Yeah.
and you can't do it, and you're like, it's not like it's an unhealthy form of exercise at that point, but it's also a point that you've kind of became used to getting that moment to yourself and that training and that stress relief and that mindfulness, like it's all there, especially when you're on a trail and you're just out there by yourself doing a training run and you're just like, it's there.
Oh yeah.
And when that's taken away, it's really hard. So, I mean, some people go into depression and, then they start running and they hurt themselves further. So it's very,
Yeah.
very fine line, like,
Yeah. No, I can relate. I had my first bout of plantar fasciitis before leading into this race actually. So again, my husband's a PT. I started training or I was training, debating whether or not I was going to do this year. And but okay, I'm in, let's do it. Ramped up my training in January like a fool. And yeah, and so my heel's starting to hurt. It's starting to get uncomfortable. But as ultra runners, you get out of bed, everything hurts. Like it's not normal to get out of bed and just like feel like a spring chicken. Like I'm always dead. So it's just normal. And so anyways, we deduced that that's what was going on. And so my husband said, you got enough time that if you just like lay off a bit, your training's fine. You'll be fine. You know what you need to do. You just need to stop running for a few weeks. And oh my gosh, what a baby I was, like I'm miserable. And I try, but it was bad. So I try to think about that this whole time when I was running. Like you didn't necessarily know if you could do this. Ironically, he said, you're either going to be in pain for 200 miles or you're going to outrun it. And you guys, I never felt it once. It just went
that's
right
awesome.
away. It just like ran the whole thing out. So
You were just so happy that you didn't think about anything else.
I know. So knock on wood, it doesn't come back. But so far, I think you can just outrun it. Just go run 200 miles, I guess.
That worked. Well, and I was going to ask you, so what did your training look like leading up to this 200-mile race that you just completed?
Yeah. So I did Pinhoti in November, and then I usually take December pretty chill. Just holidays, family, my son's birthday. It's just a nice time for us to kind of take it easy. And then again, January starts, and I usually start ramping right up. And I felt really good. Got some good training in. I'm pretty chill. I'm not doing a lot of huge, I guess, like exercise or like huge speed work or anything like that. It's a lot of zone 2, just getting out there and enjoying myself. Usually out here at Ruffner Mountain, but some bigger training blocks, couple back-to-back days, and everything felt really good till again mid-February, and then it was kind of that, oh crap, things don't feel super great. But up until then, it felt pretty solid. So I would say probably used Pinhoti a little bit as a training getting into this, but I wasn't for sure whether or not I was going to run it till really January, and then I thought, why not? David offered us free entry for doing it, and James and I talked a little bit in January when we kind of met at the training camp, and I was like, he's like, "Are you going? I haven't seen you signing up yet," and I'm like, "I'll probably do it. I just don't know." So, yeah.
Well, I'm sure you're glad you done it now, because that
Yeah.
was I mean,
It was worth it.
you ran pain free and you had an amazing race. So
Yeah, it was
tell
good.
us a little bit about the race now. Tell us the story. Like, how did everything go leading up to the race, and then how did the actual race itself go? And did you have any issues during the race that you had to work through?
Yeah. All right. I feel like, yeah, leading into the race, I felt pretty good. I never like super confident, just like let's go out there and have some fun. I think having done it last year, I felt pretty excited about what the buildup and like, prep looks like. I feel like when I'm envisioning the race, I was excited to know what the course was. I had all those markers, those mile, those aid stations in my head. I remembered it pretty well from last year, which is surprising. And then also, that you Chia up till Chiha from Pine Glen to Chiha, you get to experience that again in Pinhoti. So that was relatively fresh, albeit was very early morning in Pinhoti 100. So all of it felt familiar and exciting. I just, again, getting out there, I was like chomping at the bit. Let's get this thing going. I tell everybody, like, I don't care what distance, if I'm running a half marathon or 200, I don't like the first half. Um, and sounds like a bad attitude, but it's like, there's too much going on and excitement and nerves and all of that. So, my philosophy was just like, just get going. Let's get things moving. I don't like the build up and the start line and the questions and doubts and making sure I have everything packed. And that last, one thing that you probably are going to forget, that is going to be vital. So yeah, I was excited to just get it started. So got started running with my friend Jamie, and kind of cruising through things, and pretty quickly found myself by myself, pretty early on, which I kind of love. I don't, I'm a mom, so I don't get a lot of time just by myself except for running, which is why I think I run as far as I do. um, Free quiet time. So yeah, I was just enjoying it. Put my headphones in and started cruising. Um, I think I was pretty independent until nightfall. And my MO was trying to find somebody during the little bit of like back road sections that we do in Georgia. Um, I did that with Sarah and my friend Joseph last year, and I was really grateful because there's a couple turns that can be hard to find. They're probably not that challenging, but the first night I feel like it was reassuring to have somebody near me. There's also a couple like I guess creek crossings. So I kind of was excited to find a few headlamps and kind of know that at least somebody was around and I wasn't taking a wrong turn or making a dumb move. So yeah, after I want to say like the third aid station, I kind of found a group. It was Trevor and a guy named Jeremy, and I saw Amanda wasn't around me too. So yeah, I was pumped to kind of just know people were around, but kind of just beating to my own drum. I don't like I love to talk and kind of commiserate with people, but I also just like the grind of enjoying that time. And so we kind of started cruising, and at that point there is a big gap where you're kind of in, again, country roads, but it's a beautiful time to be in country roads of Georgia because you can almost turn your headlamp off. We knew that rain was coming, but it was really clear out, and it was warm, but it had kind of cooled down a little bit. So we were just cruising, headlamp to headlamp, kind of doing our own thing. I knew Amanda was in front of me, but I wasn't really worried. I just kind of wanted to let her do her own thing. We talked for a little while, got to know each other, and then kind of did our own situation. That went well. I felt good. Was waiting for the rain to hit, and it did. Uh, it was actually really refreshing too. I had kind of gotten bloody from a few like thorn bushes. So it was nice to shower a little bit, clean off. And I just was embracing it like, okay, it's rain. You know, we're in the middle of nowhere, Georgia. When do you get to do this? Listen to music, kind of cranking the miles away. And that's when I made my first big mistake and made a wrong turn. It forks in the road and I absolutely missed the sign. So I don't think I went much further than about a mile and a half, but it was like straight downhill. So as soon as I realized, I pulled up Gaia, and of course it's like dumping. So I don't know if y'all have probably searched Gaia in the rain. Is really challenging because you can't touch your screen. And I'm like, calm yourself down, Ash. You know what you're doing. You know it's fine. You're obviously off course. My biggest concern was I know everybody else knows I'm off course and they're panicking for me. So quickly turned around and then tried to run uphill as much as I could. But I ran into Trevor, who was my Tahoe buddy. And that kind of made me feel like misery loves company. So
Yeah.
made me feel not so alone. We flipped around and it didn't take long before we were at the aid station. So that point we dried off and I kind of reevaluated a little bit, changed my clothes. And I knew the next section pretty well was a good ridge line till you get to, I believe it's High Point, Georgia. So that was kind of a good reset. Warmed up, went down to High Point and knew that I'd be there right around sunrise. So that was exciting to kind of know where I was at. And from there on, it was going to be the like rails to trails into the road section, which gave me the fear of God. Like that section from last year was rough. So I did my best to prepare mentally for that. Fortunately, it was really cool out. And so it's nice to be kind of I had my Gore-Tex windbreaker on and I thought I was going to overheat, but it was actually really chilly. So I stayed pretty cool. And that was really nice to have. So that also kind of got me pretty close to the halfway point. I, at that point, got to Huffaker Road. So right before you literally go on you're merging on an overpass onto the highway, like semis just cruising by you. And right before that section was my next like real low point. And it was also one of my favorite points in the race because I kind of sat at Huffaker aid station for a second and collected myself, ate a veggie burger, like my third one of the race so far. And I just kind of took a deep breath knowing what was to come and headed out. And then this red Subaru comes driving by and I knew who it was right away, and it was Pete. And Pete Schreiner, who is just amazing, pops out with his camera, starts taking pictures of me and my veggie burger. Like I was so excited to see him. But I think something in my eyes told him that I was hurting. So he put his camera down and just jumped in there with me. And it felt like a mile. It probably wasn't, but it was a good stretch that he just trucked along with me. And it was, I mean, the most like humbling and grateful experience just to have somebody as a friend to be like, I know what you're going through. It's going to turn. And you know, it's going to turn, but just ride this wave. So it was really cool moment to have with him. So I know you guys know Pete. He's a great guy. So
Yes.
We're truly blessed in this entire area with photographers.
Yeah.
We
oh my
have
gosh,
some amazing
absolutely.
photographers. You got Misty, Nick, and Pete, and I'm sure there are several more that I'm not even rolling off the top of my head, but they are just so good at what they do, and they're such good, genuine people.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty
Oh my
awesome.
gosh. Yeah. Beautiful souls. So it was like what I needed. I hadn't had a pacer. I hadn't actually seen my crew. My plan was just like last year. I kind of repeated the format, meet my crew at Cave Springs, because I knew that would be halfway. I didn't really need them before, and it was going to be, I wouldn't say distraction, but it was like I needed to do that part myself. So yeah, so it was then cruising on. And I will say, like, I think some people really love that stretch because you can kind of cruise a little. But I think it's a little terrifying. So,
Did you
um,
have did you have goals? Like you wanted to be at 100 at a certain point or 50?
yeah. So yeah, that's a good question. Fortunately, I had my times from last year. All my photos and all my like text threads were time stamped. So that was a blessing and a curse because there was some changes. So I started. I think that was part of why I was getting a little frustrated. Is I knew in my head I wanted to be at Cave Springs somewhere. Last year. It was around 1 o'clock, and I knew I wasn't close to that. I was behind by a couple hours, and that was really getting to me. Like I should be faster than this, and I don't know why I'm not. I knew I made the turn wrong, and I knew there was a couple reasons, but that was a little frustrating, and I was just getting a little like in my head. So fortunately, I quickly called my husband, who's again amazing. And he's like, "You are right on schedule. You are fine. Just get your butt to Cave Springs. We'll be here waiting for you. We have pizza." And that's like my kryptonite, or I don't know, maybe my superpower, I guess, is cheese pizza in races in 200s. Um, so he came, and so I crawled up to Cave Springs, and that was my first like real pause. Like my good friend Chris and Matt were there. My husband Matt. Lots of Matts in this
Lots of men.
scenario, but yeah, it's a good name. They were there, so I had some hot spots that I tended to on my feet. Changed my socks, warmed up a little bit, ate some pizza, and at that point, I was ready to. I really reset and cruise. And I felt a lot better after that. I think it was seeing familiar faces, getting my first pacer. And Chris is a really strong athlete. He's a strong cyclist, mountain biker, and has also done the Pinhoti, so 100. So he was ready to knock some miles out, and he's a highly competitive individual. So I felt like I had to show him some fun. So it was good to kind of have him jump in. He had never done this section, so we were ready to go, and we jumped in and did that section together up towards like Flagpole Mountain. And that all went really well. My plan from there was to sleep at Low Point if possible. I had slept at High Point the year before, but I wanted to get a little bit further. Um, so I think towards the end of that section with him, I got pretty sleepy, but I picked up another pacer, my friend Tristan, who is a very, very fast road half marathoner. So I think he was like, "What the heck is this?" I think he showed up like ready to, like he was caffeinated, ready to run. And I was like, hold up. We're gonna be doing some power hiking. But he was really helpful. It was really helpful to get to like we got to know each other, and he again in their own right, every pacer I think has their own gift, and he was good about just distracting me, keeping me awake till I got to Low Point, and that's where I took my first rest. So
And how long did you take a rest?
90 minutes.
90
So,
minutes.
yeah, we have a
She
Jeep.
says that very methodically too. Did you
That's it.
notice like there was no hesitation?
90
Like,
minutes.
this was planned and executed.
Yeah, it was planned. Well, the plan was 2 hours, and then I just felt like it was gonna be too much. Like, I could have used it, I think, but I was really worried about, uh I was really anxious to catch the first female in the on my terms. So I was like, we need to just cut that a little bit. I don't think I need that full bit. So we cut it. My husband said, I said, if you wake me up in 10 minutes, I slept in my Jeep. We have a really, really nice setup in the back. And he's got it down pat. He's got everything ready. He's got my sweats, which I didn't even change into. He's got the Jeep heated, the air mattress reversed, so my feet are elevated. I mean, it is a science. And he was ready for me. So I said, if I complain after the first wake up call, give me 10 more minutes. But I woke up, so we were ready to go. He handed me some 5-hour energy or whatever that was, and chugged it and asked if I wanted cold pizza, and we were on the road. So
You're yeah, and just to make it clear, like I don't think your 30-minute extra would have mattered because you had like a 4-hour lead from what I can see on second place. So you but at the time you were chasing
not the time it didn't. No. Yeah, at the time I said I'm not chasing like yet. Like I do not like to be chased. I mean, full disclosure, I'm putting the heat on her. I'm gonna make sure she is working, but I had eyes on her and like I want her to do what she needs to do. And she's a fierce competitor. She is an amazing athlete. Amanda has done 24, I believe, 100 milers. She said, so she's an amazing athlete. And I wanted to do my own thing until it was time, but I wanted to make sure she felt that I was behind her as long as she could.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. And I mean, yeah, kudos to both of you because, I mean, absolutely. I mean, you both were in the top 10 overall, which is really cool to see. Like, that's awesome. So, at what point did you catch first place female?
Yeah. So gosh, I'm trying to remember. It was right after. So we're on our way into Coleman Lake. And it's a good bit of fire service roads. So it's pretty predictable what the terrain is. And I remembered it from last year. I got to do that section with my friend Christy. And so I was like trying to summon all of her energy because she's just like this wonderful human. And she and I had a great time. So I was trying to remember all that we had done then and trying to kind of give myself that extra boost. And I saw her as I came into that aid station before Coleman Lake. So right before there. And she had her pacer and looked really strong. So I was like, I'm going to do what I need to do, see what I can do to catch her, but I'm not going to push too hard. And then I called my husband at one point just to like tell him what I needed at Coleman Lake and to tell him I needed to make it quick. I said it's going to have to be like pit crew stop. We're not going to be doing any funny business. And he agreed and said, she's not very far from you. Like you can probably catch her now if you want. And so I gave myself a pep talk and we just went off. But in my head it was a couple of us.
I can only imagine.
A little bit of language, a little bit of kick in the pants, but I went after her and I saw that she was moving with her pacer and I just decided to pass her as well and efficiently as I could and not look back. That's when the course changed a little from last year. So I was a little uncharted territory. You stay on the Pinhoti a little bit more, which was beautiful. Like, what a beautiful addition. You roll into Coleman Lake and it's just fantastic. But I decided like, if it's not runnable, hike it. But if you can be running is a very loose term, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
At that point. But if you can be running, you need to be moving as fast as you can. So I also knew I had a crew coming at Coleman Lake. I knew that aid station was going to be fantastic. It was before. It's a really great aid station. The volunteers there are fantastic. And so, again, he showed up with pizza. And I was like, all right. So I think I ate like 3 or 4 pieces, changed my clothes. I saw my friend Bob, who I run with, and my friend Kelly, and my friend Elizabeth, who was going to pace me. And it was like, all right, game on. We can't let her see us. And so I said, as soon as I walked in, we got to be out before she comes in because I don't want her to know how close I am. I mean, there's a tracker. She can see that. She had an amazing crew. Her family was there. She had plenty of resources to tell her what she needed. But my goal was to make sure I stayed as far away as I could. But so I grabbed my friend Elizabeth and she just kept me moving and we cruised through. And I knew the best part was, as you guys know, then we're going into basically towards Pine Glen. So it's like, this feels like it's drawing me home towards Pinhoti 100 start. So that was exciting to get to that point and be like, this is all familiar. So that was exciting. And we did that towards High Rock. And apparently I was slowing down because my husband, this is the only time that we kind of got into a bit of a, like, whose opinions are matters. Because I showed up feeling pretty good, we'd gone slower, but it's kind of, rolling, it's rolling hills. It's not as runnable for sure. I'm sure James was cruising. Corey was probably hammering away, but I was doing my best. And, we got to High Rock and my husband said, do you want to sleep? And I was like, no, I'm not ready to sleep. And I think that I think I took it personally that he thought I wanted to sleep. So I had a bit of a vendetta. I was like, give me a veggie burger. Let's roll. Like, I got my headphones. I need to do my thing. And I didn't have a pacer for that next section, but he thought I needed one. And I said, no, very adamantly. I'm sure that the aid station volunteers were like, we need to give them space. But yeah, so I said, just trust me. Like, I think I've got this section. And I just started hammering as many gels as I possibly could. And it paid off because I felt really good on that stretch. And that got me towards phase.
So I love the fact that, I think this is like a superpower, by the way. So I love the fact that you do this, but a lot of runners will give in when someone's telling them something they should do, even if they do feel strongly about it, because they're midway into a race and they don't really feel confident in their decision.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, for sure.
The fact that you said, no, I need to do this. I'm going to run. I'm good. I don't need anybody this section, because in all honesty, when you're doing a race that's like multi-day, you have to have that, because if you do something that someone doesn't, if you give in, that weighs on you for days.
Yeah.
And you can't get that out of your mind. So I love the fact that your husband did like back off, and that you spoke up and said that, because that is super important when you're trying to do something that is a long stretch, even a 100-mile race. If something goes wrong at mile 50 and you do something that someone else has told you to do and you disagreed with it, you think about that for the next 50 miles.
Yeah.
You really do.
Yeah.
And in all honesty, it just pisses you off to the point like that's all you're thinking about, and you don't enjoy the race. So kudos to you. And for people that are listening, take that advice. If you feel strongly that that's not something you should do, speak up. You're the one running the race. I mean, they're trying to look, your crew is looking out for the best, the best of you to help you finish the race. But sometimes, I mean, if you feel strongly that it's the wrong decision, you should speak up. So Ashlie, kudos to you on that. Didn't mean to like go on a rant, but I love that. I love the fact that you did that, because on a 200-mile race, I mean, I don't know, at this point you might be seeing leprechauns. I don't know. But you knew what you needed to do, and that's super important. So I love that.
I think it's cool too, because my husband, he does know me better than I do, and there was that like, gosh, I think maybe I should trust him on this one. And I think every other aspect, I really do what I need to. There was just something that was like, I feel this, like I'm feeling, I don't get runner's highs very often. Like it's, a lot of zone 2 boring work. But it felt like, oh man, I feel good. Like I feel like I think I can do something here, and I think I need to roll with it, because when you've got those highs that far in, you've got to take the highs and the lows. I told Alex, who does like all the I guess like entertainment side of this, so like the videography. I told him early on that like my motto was light, dark, light again. And it's like you're going to experience, those highs and those lows, but they're going to get better. And it was one of those moments of like, I just had some darkness, but like we are riding the light, and it's going to fade. So let's ride it while we can, because I don't have a lot of time. But it paid off. Usually I listen to my husband though.
So that stretch that you ran by yourself, do you know roughly what mileage you were at that point?
Yeah. So it was roughly 170. So I had about 30 miles to go.
Okay.
And it was basically, you have about if I'm correct here, I might be wrong on this, but about 12 miles. I had about 12 miles to go by myself. And then I was going to pick up my husband for the last about 20.
Oh, I love that. That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and I think he was very grateful. I didn't want him to run with me, because again, he's like, running hurts. He's a super strong runner and an amazing crew and pacer, but I don't think he wanted to get out there earlier than needed. So it was a win-win.
Well, that's great. And so he finished the race with you?
Yeah, so I picked him up at Faye's. Again, it was really cool because that aid station, my friends Bob and Larkin, I ran with Bob last year, and I've seemed to find him at every single trail race. He's a local, and his son Larkin is, I want to say like 20. Amazing kid and amazing runner in his own right. He'll be running this soon, I'm sure. I think he said when he graduates, but sorry, Larkin, I just called you out on that one.
I love it. Got to do it.
They were there. Yeah, they were there, and they made some amazing food and get another veggie burger. They made it like exceptionally good. It was like a quesadilla veggie burger. It was great. And yeah, and so Matt was ready. We had done this same section last year. So, and I felt that high was still there. I think it was honestly the amount of gels I had been consuming. Like I was at, this precision, like 90-gram carb, like slurp bags, I guess that's what we call them. But they were
the big pouches.
Yeah, they were hitting so well. I felt so good. So, I just told my husband, I said, like, we can't linger. I'm still feeling really good. We got to just keep moving. And often that, like last year, I took off my headphones, started catching up with him. And this year I said, like, I need to keep jamming. Like, I need my music. You do you. I'm just going to follow you. Just make sure I don't get lost, because at that point I was worried about missing a turn or something. And I said, I just want to be able to follow you. So we just cruised, and I think we kept a pretty steady pace for several miles. And that was actually also the point that I told Matt. I said, third overall is like within sight, and I want to get this as a female. Like, I want a woman on that podium. So like, this is our chance, and I'm going to really regret it if I don't give myself, like, give every ounce I have. And that went really well until probably, I don't know what mileage, but probably about 2 a.m. And I started getting pretty fuzzy and like some hallucinating, mildly. And so I said, let's take a 5-minute nap, did a trail nap for about 5 minutes. And that helped enough. And then at that point I turned off music and I just said, like, let's talk. And it was actually really nice. We hadn't talked for a few days, and I asked him how everything went with my kid, and like, how did it, drop off go, and what has your perspective been? And so we had a great time catching up. And then, then the best part was we were both very tired, and we could just start to see that little bit of the blue in the sky. And it was like, all right, we were getting into the aid station. We're a little bit a ways, maybe a mile. And so once that light started to come up, it was like, okay, my brain knows what to do. It's daylight. Not yet, but it's daylight's coming. I knew I had Chiha, but we got to that last aid station and Emily was there. Emily Finn was helping, and she gave me some, it was another veggie burger and tater tots, I think, but it was great. I'm realizing I ate like 3 things, but they worked. And then it was Chiha. And this, I think the last like bit of drama was, I was like, gosh, those guys seem to be catching up. And at this point, I'm not rational. I'm like, I'm paranoid a little bit. My husband keeps checking the tracker, but we can't really see it. So we've got, I think, Trevor and Cal, and there's a group of 4 that seems to be sticking together. And, I knew this climb really well. I did it in the daylight plenty for Pinhoti and other things. I did it last year in the dark. But it was rough, and I started going up it, and my husband kind of, we were kind of like, okay, we've got this. I've got this. It's going to be okay. I just got to stay moving. And he kind of got quiet, and I knew pretty quickly, like, I think he's getting nervous about who's behind us. And I kept asking him, like, how far behind me are they? And he kind of, I don't know, I'm not sure, a couple miles. You got some time. And then at one point he said, this Cal guy took a break, or he made a break, I think. It's very cycling terms. He made a break. And I was like, oh crap. So, and then he's like, and there's a Trevor guy also. And I'm like, okay. So you guys, I've never hauled that hard. It was basically the base of Chia. We had about 4 miles. And he was like, you're just going to have to give it everything you got. So I started running. And he was just going behind me, offering me whatever we want. Do you want caffeine? Do you want gels? And I wasn't talking. I was just like, we've got to just book it. So we cruised, and that was probably my top moment because Matt got to use his expertise in cycling. He was literally like throwing me gels, and I would grab it and slurp it, and he'd be like, throw it back, I'll catch it. It was like we were in a little Peloton. I was very proud. So proud of him for his like execution of like, this is how it's going to go. And so I don't know. I for sure was at my absolute max heart rate there till the very end. And we got to the very top, and he was like, okay, like, I think he was texting my friend Chris, like, how much time, like, are we okay? Like, I can't do math anymore. I don't know how long, because the trackers weren't really consistent. So yeah, we got to the top, and I felt like I was going to pass out, and I took a minute and gave him a hug, and we saw Pete, and then just, basically meandered to the finish line in a very unglamorous fashion. But that was it.
Yeah. You were, roughly 20-ish, 26 minutes between third and fourth. So, I mean, it's a good thing that you did push it, because obviously they were hunting you down, just like the way you were hunting the first female down.
I know.
A strong finish. How did it feel to cross that finish line, knowing that you've won this race 2 years in a row now,
back to back?
Yeah, I think it was pretty surreal. Like, at that point, I was so exhausted. I was pretty depleted. It was really cool to see so many people there. James was there, which was amazing. 24 hours or something removed, like super cool and casual. But it was really cool to see him and like take a minute to debrief. And like, I think it still kind of hasn't hit me. I'm still really tired, but it was just really neat to feel like there was a lot of moments climbing Chiha that I was like, it's slipping away. I don't think I'm going to be able to do what I put my mind to. And in a way that I don't think I've done before, said like, just don't think about it, because it's not helping. You've just got to keep positive, because if you back off at all, then it will be gone. Like, that dream will be gone. But I really, really wanted, I had that hat, the Here for the Women's Race, which is a really great organization. It's raising funds for women in trail, and it's really just meant to like lift up women and like show the representation of women in trail and ultra running, because it is such a small group of us, and it's growing and it's amazing, but it's still small. And it's something that when I saw that window, is like, can we put a woman on that podium? And dang, if we can do that, we've got to make it happen. So I feel very lucky that it did.
Yeah. I was going to say, and it's just a matter of time before a female finishes first overall at this race too.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. It's pretty cool.
So one more question, and then we'll get into the real questions. But I have one more question about it. Are you going back next year?
What? That's a great question.
Now we're putting her on
the spot. I will be out there in some shape or form. That's for sure. I will say that.
She's smart. She's not committing yet.
But I loved it. James was like, all right, same time, same place next year, Ash. I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I got a friend that I'm very, very heavily indebted to. If she wants to run it, Christy, it is your race. I would love to pace her. But I will be out there one way or another.
Yeah, sometimes it's good to retire for a little while. Like, go out on top and wait for someone to break your record.
Yeah. It's hard to resist anything on the Vinhody, but we will see what happens.
I'm pretty sure Brett Favre missed that memo somewhere in football.
Oh yeah. Don't drive.
Go out strong.
All right, Ashley, we'll get to questions now, because we do have a hard stop for 7:30. So
I know. Sorry, guys.
No. It's been great. Thank you. And thank you for doing this on short notice. Like I said, I was messaging you half awake and, after a race.
Oh, what a champ.
Why do you run? You alluded to it a little bit earlier about, with the kids and, it's your time. But honestly, you're doing a 200-mile race. You're doing multiple 200-mile races. You're doing 100-mile races. And things get really hard and you're not yourself and things are extremely painful. And, you're out there by yourself going through the middle of the night. Why? What keeps you going?
Yeah, I like that one. I might get a little emotional because I'm, again, not quite rested either. I am a really anxious person, I think, by nature. And just who I am. I always have been. So I think there's something about running that brings a lot of confidence to me that I don't find in my regular life. I think there's something about specifically trails. I think being a woman out there, having to kind of do something that a lot of people think would be scary, running at night on your own in backcountry Georgia, or wherever it is. I think that running in general brings a lot of confidence to me that I don't think is given naturally. And I really like the feeling of finding myself. And yeah, peace and quiet is great as a mom of an 8-year-old who loves to talk. But I think that just being able to be meditate by myself and really think through things, but also find that inner confidence and you can do really hard things is really empowering. And I think it's something that no matter what I've done in my life, somehow running brings that out in me.
How long did it take you to find that?
I think running my first 100 and doing night sections, especially doing it by myself. That's scary. That is scary. I don't care who you are. I now think it's my favorite. There is nothing cooler than being look at the freaking spider eyes and look at the moon and look at the who knows what is around me, right? It's pouring rain and I'm by myself and I feel weirdly safe. And maybe I shouldn't, but I do. And I think that, yeah, I think gradually through the night sections, through the long, quiet, scary moments, and then coming over those and doing it independently, I think that's where I find my joy for sure.
There is definitely something special about the 3-digit distance.
Yeah.
Whether it's 100, 200, 300, it doesn't matter. When you go throughout the night and you're still running and you're trying to get to that 100-mile finish, like it's your very first one, there is no other feeling. When you finish, the amount of confidence you gain from that and the amount of things you went through, it's almost life-changing. Truly, it makes you feel like you found a whole nother part of yourself that's been missing, and it's just so special. And you don't have to run a 300-mile race to feel that, or a 200-mile. A 100-mile race will do it. And there's a big difference between a 50-mile race and a 100-mile race. It is way different. Me and my fiance talk about it all the time, but mile 80 to 100, it is a different place.
Yeah.
It truly is. And, not everybody experiences that, but most people do. And it's so interesting. So I love your answer. And that's why I asked when, because I was hoping you would say 100 miles.
Yeah, it is. It's a gift that I wish everybody could experience one point. Unfortunately, you have to do a lot of things to get to that part, but bringing it full circle, my brother Matt told me when I towed the line of my first 100, he said, "You're going to be a very different person when you finish than you were when you started." And every race, it without fail, you're a different person.
Absolutely.
And how cool is that we can do something like that really brings something out in you that you would never find.
Well said.
We're really lucky.
Yeah.
Mr. Williams, all you.
All right, we got a few questions, and I think this lady may live close to you, and
Okay.
she runs with Trail Sisters.
Okay.
She says, ask her if she's going to any Birmingham Trail Sister runs again because she misses you.
Man, oh guys, I know I need to get out there. I will. Now this is going to put me on the spot. Absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel like I try to get more involved in the Trail Sisters stuff. It's a great organization for all those ladies out there looking for any group of women to run with. Talk about empowering, like run with a bunch of badass women. It is amazing. So my schedule's just always rough. Again, it's a lot of me and my husband trying to work our training out. So it's like he usually gets dibs on the weekends because my job's pretty flexible. I can do a lot of weekday stuff. So, but next time I have that opening, I will be up.
All right. The next one is this one's about mindset. What is your mindset when you're standing at the start line of a 200-mile race?
I think most recently, I think it's evolved, but I think most recently it is just one like beat at a time, like one step at a time, because it is so hard to not think that big picture. And you guys know that with the hundreds, with anything like that, it's so easy to be like, oh my gosh, how am I physically going to get past this one? Or, I had people the first year asking me like, how do you get at Chiha? I'm like, we are not anywhere near Chiha. So don't even think about that. Like you'll get there. You'll get up there, I promise. But it is a lot of just be present, be in this moment and reminding myself to be present where I'm at, because you're not going to get there by thinking 3 steps ahead. You got to think 1 step.
Yeah. If you think too far ahead of it, you just psych yourself out.
Oh, you'll be in a ball on the trail.
Yeah.
It's horrifying.
Seen that before.
Yeah.
Good company.
All right. These next few questions are some questions we ask everybody. And I think you've already answered this one. But if you could pick one aid station food, what would it be?
Veggie burger.
Yeah. Veggie burgers. They hit well. They just, I don't know. I'm vegetarian, so like it's just easy. But gosh, cheese pizza, like good cheese pizza, I wouldn't want it so much as an aid station. Like my husband's got to bring it because it's got to be like kind of fresh, but it is like amazing. It is so good. It's like that salt, and like you're so tired of the same bland stuff, so it like feels kind of exciting. And you can put it in a bag, throw it in your pack. It'll transport mildly okay. But yeah, veggie burgers, cheese pizza. Jelly beans. Starburst jelly beans.
You can never go wrong with like jelly beans or chews or anything like that.
Yeah.
Like
all the little gummy bears.
And now's the season, it's Easter. You can stock up on all the jelly beans.
So going along with that theme, if you had to pick, would you want sweet or a salty snack at an aid station?
Salty. Always salty. Yeah.
Okay.
It's usually like nothing besides the jelly beans. Everything else is like, it's got to be salt. Which probably says I'm needing salt.
I understand that.
Yep.
Yeah. Don't know why.
If you could pick one race and that was your dream race, what would it be?
Gosh, I have to say right now it'd be Western States. Do you mean like one that I haven't done? Okay. And I feel like there's probably ones like outside of the United States that I'd like to do. But that's the one I've been chasing, mostly because it's very familiar. It's where I grew up. I can't tell you how many times friends and family back home have been like, have y'all ever heard about the race that's like it's in Auburn? And out here it's like, oh, Auburn, Alabama. So I just want to get that one. I just want to do that one because it's like, gosh, dang it. It's like very familiar to me. My father-in-law was very close. So that's probably the one that I'm chasing. So I'm doing Mohican in May to get my ticket, because that's just like that thing where every year now you just got to get that ticket.
Yeah.
But someday it'll happen.
Well, and you got it for Pinhoti in 2024, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just that's kind of the incentive, but it'll happen someday.
Absolutely. You keep collecting enough tickets, you'll eventually get in.
It's fun. It's a game. Yeah.
All mine haven't been tickets for this. I got to pick some.
It's also like the weekend of my birthday every year. So I'm like, it's gonna happen like on the perfect time, but
that's perfect.
Patiently waiting. Yeah.
All right. My last question is, what pack and shoes did you use for the Southern States 200?
I'm Solomon pack. I don't know what size, but I feel like it was like, gosh, I don't know what liter. It's like the bigger one. And then I like the Nike Zagamas a lot. been wearing those for a long time. And not those, but I wore like Nike Trail and most recently Zagamas. And I love them. They're great. They fit well. It doesn't broke. It's not broke. Don't fix it. So
Absolutely.
Yep.
I've learned long ago, whatever pair of shoes works for you, you stick with it because eventually they're
Yeah.
going to mess it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. I needed to just stock up. And like there's something about it too that I feel like is good luck because there's the Gama is Basque, like Basque country, which is my husband's heritage. So like every time we open the box, it's like very much a nod to like where he's from. And so I feel like it's
That's really cool.
Oh,
no,
that's
that's
cool.
good omen. I believe in signs.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And like you said, if
We
it's
stock
working,
up though.
if it's working,
Now that I said that, they're definitely going to discontinue them.
That's how they do it. Yeah.
that or they're like, oh, we made this new change.
New change.
I know. Yeah, and I'm going to hate them. So.
Yeah.
Well, Ashlie, thank you so
Yes,
much
thank
for
you.
taking the time to be on the podcast with us, sharing your
Thank you
story
guys.
and telling us a little bit about your suffering and your strategies. But do you have any questions for us?
No, this has been such a privilege. Thank you so much for reaching out. It's kind of cathartic to kind of debrief with some guys who know how it feels, and it's a nice little therapy session. So thank you.
I love it. And
Yep.
thank you for being open, honest, and sharing your story. And, we wish you the best. Good luck at Mohican. And we can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see you race Western States because it's going to happen.
Yes.
Someday you'll see my name and be like, Itherburn, I remember her.
Well, Ashlie, if you'll hang on with us for just a second, we'll talk for just a second. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Ashlie.
Okay, thanks.